Okay, so a Leetcode question: present sales after end days. So in this video, there are two goals. The first goal is to see how to solve this problem, and then I'm going to explain this piece of code to make good use of your time instead of letting you with me coding. So the second goal is to see how to behave in a real interview. So let's get started. So before I start my explanation, I would recommend you go through my sheet, which is a summary about the different coding questions, system design question, behavior question, etc. So let's go back. So present sales after end days. So there are 8 present sales in a row, and each cell is either occupied or vacant. So each day, whether the cell is occupied or vacant, changes according to the following rule. So if the cell has two adjacent neighbors that are both occupied or both vacant, then the cell becomes occupied. Otherwise, it becomes vacant. So you may notice that the start and the end, they just have one neighbor. So it's for sure for the next day it is going to change to 0 and stay to 0 forever. So let's see this example. For this one, starts status is like this, and is equal 7, then it changed to this kind of pattern. So I think we are pretty much clear about the problem. Let's see the constraints. So it says that the cells has a fixed length, which is 8, and each cell is for sure to be 0 or 1, and n is between 1 to a billion. So how to solve this problem? So we can just do some simulation on top of this, but when n is very large, I think it is going to just runtime overflow. But so how to solve this problem? So essentially, for this kind of thing, there should be some period. Like for example, when it starts from this kind of status, and after a certain number of the loop, it is going to change back to this kind of status. So that is because for this kind of thing, let's say there are 6 digits. So 6 digits, all the combination. So each place has 2 possibilities. So for 6 digits, there are 2 to the power of 6, which is 64 possibilities. So for sure there will be a period to change back to this kind of status. So we are going to during the iteration we need to figure out the period, and after we figure out the period, we just don't need to continue the simulation. Instead, we can just use a period to do some modular operation to figure out what is the final status. So let's look through this piece of code. So after you find the solution, you will need to do some coding work. So for coding, the correctness, readability, and also the speed are the 3 factors to be considered. So let's take a look at this piece of code. So we define a helper function which is integer to array, integer array to string. It is to change the cells array to a 0 or 1 to a string which is composed by 0 or 1. And for this helper function, it is to change the string to the integer array. So if the character is 0, then we change the integer to be 0. If the character is 1, we change the integer to be 1. So those are the 2 helper functions I explained. And this transform helper function is actually a simulation. Like for the cell, we are going. So it is like a simulation to change the cells from day 1 to day 2. So it's like for day I, it is going to change to the status for day I plus 1. So that's essentially how what the transform helper function is. So let's go through this piece of code simply. So it's like when the character before it and the character after it is the same, then you're just going to append 1. because there is a rule saying that if both neighbors are occupied or vacant, then the next state is going to be occupied. So otherwise it will be pen 0, which means it is going to be vacant. And for sure the first one is going to be vacant and the last one is going to be vacant because they only have one neighbor. So let's see. So first of all, we define the index, which essentially is the index of the day. The index of the day we are doing simulation on. So string, we change the cells array into string for the purpose of putting it into the map. So this pattern index map is to this. So just like the name suggests, the key is a pattern and the integer is the index of the day, and this is like a reverse map from the day to the pattern. And initially we set the period to be 0, and when we find the period we are going to break in the middle. So let's see. So first of all, we plus the day, and we transform the cells into the status of the next day. So if for the next day the status is already exist in the pattern index map, then we are going to compute the period based on idx minus the day we find previously that has such kind of status. And then if we don't have a previous same status in the pattern index map, then we are going to update the two maps with the corresponding key and value. And when after this while loop, if idx is equal to n, then it means we didn't find the period. Then we are just going to return the status represented by the current string. Otherwise it means we find the period and we just simply break that. So we are going to do n minus idx modular the period, and then this is a corresponding index within the index pattern map of the pattern, and then we are going to get the pattern and to be returned as a integer array. So that's it for this piece of code. So for coding, we care about correctness. Let me explain what is the readability. It's more about the maintenance of the code to make sure that you have a good enough naming convention, good coding style, and for example, regarding the style, like the indentation, formatting, like if you can break the some common functions into helper function like this, something like that. And also after you're done with coding, don't forget to do some testing. So that's it for this question. If you have any question about the solution or about whatever, feel free to leave some comments below. If you like this video, please help subscribe to this channel. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.